My mission is to help make our food system healthier, more sustainable and ethical. In a market where consumers are making more informed decisions about the food they buy, I believe that food businesses catering to these needs will be the most successful. I'm Michael Fox, CEO and co-founder of shiitake mushroom company Fable Food. For years, I've been obsessed with our food system. Welcome to my podcast where I talk shiitake with successful chefs, food industry executives and entrepreneurs to learn about what's led to their success in the food industry. In this episode of Talking Shiitake, I speak with Richard Prout, Chief Product and Innovation Officer at Zambrero. Richard takes us through his journey into the hospitality business, beginning in London, then joining the Sam Prince Hospitality Group and Zambrero, where he's worked for 12 years now, helping grow this mission-driven business into the hospitality powerhouse that it is today. Richard takes us through the Plate for Plate initiative, which exists to help eliminate world hunger and will cross 100 million meals served before the end of this year, and it's a core part of the value proposition at Zambrero. Richard walks us through their process for understanding the wants and needs of consumers and what led them to partner with us at Fable and launch our pulled shiitake mushroom product onto their menus, which we're incredibly excited about. Finally, we learn about the international growth plans at Zambrero, with restaurants now in the UK, Ireland, New Zealand, and their first one in the US. I'm excited to bring you Richard Prout. So, you've been with the Sam Prince Hospitality Group and Zambrero in Australia now for 12 years. I'd love to hear your personal journey into the hospitality space and what drew you into the industry.
My journey started as a young 14-year-old, kind of working in an Italian restaurant. Initially as a kitchen hand, kitchen porter, washing dishes. But, I'm 6'5" and it was a tight kitchen. They got short staffed, needed somebody out on the floor one day. And that's kind of how it started. Like being on the floor and serving guests. It wasn't just about the food. It was actually about how could I ensure that customer had an incredible experience, right? Whether that be with local knowledge. So the town I was from, Brighton, kind of a city down on the south coast of England. You'd have a lot of tourists in town kind of wanting to know where to go. And this was, despite my youthful looks, this is quite a while ago. So Google and maybe Ask Jeeves was around at the time. But to be able to kind of ensure that when somebody left that restaurant, they didn't just have a great meal, but they kind of felt like they had been looked after. And then as it evolved, I kind of started working for a bar and restaurant group within Brighton. We had kind of a location on the beach called Oso Social. It was a 240 cover restaurant, which when that big gold thing in the sky shined bright, we were busy. And although that doesn't happen often in England, when it does happen in England, if you've ever been, everyone flocks to the beach, everyone flocks to somewhere where they can dine outside. And the owner had kind of seen what I was doing with regards to that space, put me in charge of kind of looking after one of his pubs, which was in the city. It was the busiest pub in the south of England, where I quickly didn't get bored, but, pouring wine, spirit mixes and beers and standard cocktails. I was like, I want more. I need to know more. So I started educating myself on cocktails and the balance of flavors and, thinking about everything from the freshness, that balance, the presentation, and so on within creating drinks. And then we opened up a third venue, which was out in the country, where we had our own allotment. We kind of grew our own vegetables there. We had our own chickens, used the eggs and used those within the kitchen. And I spent as much time as I could in these kitchens so that I could get an understanding of how everything worked within the business, not just the bar and the front of house, but truly understand that kitchen. And then back in the pub game in Brighton, kind of going, to be brutally honest, being frustrated by some of the chefs that we had in that just didn't care, that were quite slapdash, were either late to work or just didn't really give the care and attention to the dishes. And we tried, franchising out the kitchen and giving it to other operators and so on. And then I just decided to roll up my sleeves, put on a chef jacket and run the kitchen myself and develop a menu that was kind of idiot-proof to a point, something that in those events where you didn't have a chef, your team members could still get in the kitchen and develop. And at that stage, it was just kind of almost a tapas menu, right? It was pretty much open up some anchovies, plate them nicely, do charcuterie board, cheese boards, padron peppers kind of in a pan that was as kind of much cooking as was involved. And then developing that Sunday kitchen, which was when most people go to the pub and actually consume food in the UK. Moved on into London, working for a group called Drake and Morgan, where I then took everything that I'd kind of learned and moved into a cocktail kind of innovation role, where we were developing the cocktail program for that group of restaurants. And then found myself in Australia and started working, got introduced through the ex-CFO of the group I worked with in London to a consultant who at the time was gearing up to open Mexico with Sam Prince, which was his first kind of sit-down mid-market casual restaurant. And all he really had to do was tell me about this guy, Sam Prince, and his plate for plate philosophy was Zambrero. And although that wasn't necessarily linked with Mexico, it sold me on this guy, right? It sold me on this person that I wanted to work with and be a part of something that was far bigger than just food and drinks and service. 12 years later, here I am kind of working with Sam, doing Mexico initially, opening up additional Mexicos, doing a lot of the conceptual sort of development, menu design, staff training for Indu, which was our Sri Lankan sort of South Indian concept menu based in Sydney as well, onto Kyoto, which was the Japanese izakaya. And then got to a point where there were some corporate restaurants within the Zambrero world. So Zambrero is majority franchise, but there were a couple of stores without franchise partners. And I guess the work I'd done with Sam and the confidence that he had of me kind of knowing that I knew front of house, back of house, the hostess, the bar, the kitchen, etc., when I know the guy that's going to turn these Zambreros around. So I did a little bit of both. I had the hospitality world and I had Zambrero world. And at the time, I thought Zambrero would take maybe 5 or 10% of my time. Quickly realized that wasn't the case and decided that I needed to plant both feet firmly in the green space of Zambrero. And then through that developed into, I guess, understanding how our restaurants operated, then put me in a position that, some people in head office maybe forget about the real life kind of journey of a team member or a franchise partner. So I actually moved from that role into a national operations and then into general manager of ops and training. And just in the last year, I've kind of moved into the space that maybe I should have been doing for longer, which is in product and innovation. So continuing the journey on, how do we continuously improve our product, also focusing on new development and think about innovation within not only the product that we serve, but how we serve it and how we can ensure that we're kind of as streamlined, as efficient as possible within our restaurants so that the kids that are working for us, can deliver the best burrito in town. And yeah, that's 12 years literally ticked over about two weeks ago.
Yeah, super interested in that role at a chain. Yeah, I think 230 restaurants for Zambrero. Is that right?
So about 317 currently
Oh
globally.
wow! Oh
Yeah,
wow! Wow! Wow!
so
That's
we've
huge.
we've been
Yeah,
busy.
yeah.
This financial
Better
year,
update my numbers.
this financial year, we're basically opening one restaurant a week in Australia alone. We've got 29 restaurants in Ireland, 13 restaurants in the UK, 11 in New Zealand. We've got the one in the US, and then I'll probably mess up with the math now, but it's around 267. Oh, sorry, yeah, 267 roughly in Australia.
A chain the QSR chain that size, like that product and innovation role. How much of it is like, yeah, new product innovation, understand like consumer research, menu development, and you touched on in your explanation before. Quite a lot of it sounds like it's kind of operational, making sure the products work with labor and staff. And how does the role sort of split like that?
Yeah, so look, the innovation piece is obviously key for us kind of staying competitive and kind of meeting evolving customer needs. We kind of are looking to continuously refresh our menu, but whilst remaining true to our core range and remaining true to the way in which we have built historically, right? This customization. If we take that away, we have so many customers that love the fact that we cater for a number of dietary needs within our restaurant. We're not necessarily hugely vocal about it, but we've worked with a company over in New Zealand to create a hemp and spinach tortilla. So that's our gluten-free tortilla, and it's something that kind of sets us apart from a lot of our competitors, right? Normally, when it comes to a gluten-free burrito, that's quite simply a naked burrito, right, or a bowl.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the difference between consuming a bowl and consuming something wrapped in that flour tortilla is vast. So being able to kind of offer that to our customers is also awesome. And from other things, from our vegan cheese to our vegan sour cream to even our sauces. All of our sauces are vegetarian. The majority of them are vegan. We only have one that contains gluten. We have one that contains nuts. But we do things in a way that we are able to custom the product for our guests. Now, when it comes to kind of innovating, with regards to myself, sometimes I can kind of just hope that I throw some wildcard ideas to the wall and they'll stick, and happy days, we move on. But thankfully, I've got a great team behind me that manage my creativity. So the correct way, I am told, is obviously to base this innovation on kind of consumer preferences, dietary trends, emerging cuisines, and most importantly, kind of feedback from our restaurants as well and our customers.
How do you get that information that then kind of leads you down the path of what the consumer preferences are? Do you run sort of in-store surveys? Yeah, how does all that work?
So look, there's a part of it which is just being hands-on, being on the ground, being with the team whenever in restaurant, kind of standing shoulder to shoulder with them, and experiencing and reviewing how they're handling the food, how they're interacting with our customers, and then also watching how our customers are interacting with the food and interacting with our guests. So that's kind of one part, which is trying wherever possible to be in restaurant and spend that time. And that Australia is a big place, say with 267 restaurants. People are different. They all speak the same lingo, but how they operate in South Australia versus Far North Queensland, WA, etc. They all have their own kind of subtle nuances. So there's that piece. When it comes to understanding our menu, we did a project, a couple of years ago, which was a big kind of market research group that we worked with the Creative Method and 55.5 to actually understand what our customers think about our product, how they compare us to our competitors, from the wording on our menu to the process and the journey of how we order. To when we do run trials, and Fable is a perfect example of this. So we trialed the shiitake mushroom at the back end of last year now. We actually trialed it in about 74 restaurants, right? Which is a fairly large trial. If you consider the number of our restaurants, quite often we'll just choose a state or even a cluster of restaurants within that state. But we did it with that, and with the mushroom, we want to understand how is it performing from an operations kind of flow. Is it holding? Is it maintaining its texture throughout the life of the product, whilst also kind of having QR codes within our product for everyone to be able to participate from a customer perception, and provide us with feedback. We often get a response, obviously, from these, and it allows us to form decisions. And thankfully, the vegan and vegetarian community are very vocal. So for this trial, we had like the largest amount of feedback we'd ever had on anything. And thankfully, it was hugely popular, which is why the product will hit our restaurants kind of later this year for an LTO. So we will run it as a limited time offer for our customers to experience that product, with my personal hope and desire that this becomes a core item within our menu.
You touched on before the Plate for Plate initiative at Zambrero, and I think I read on your site it's like 88 million meals served. So walk us through the kind of the mission behind Zambrero and the Plate for Plate initiative. It's awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, it was the thing that got me into working for the Sam Prince Group. So within Zambrero, our mission's quite simple. For every burrito or bowl we serve, we donate a meal to someone in need. And at the moment, you're right, we've just ticked over, we're a little way through now, 88 million meals. 90 million meals will be within the next month and a half, with 100 million meals absolutely in sight for this year. So we partner with three charities, basically the Plate for Plate initiative. We work with a charity called Rise Against Hunger, Love Mercy, and Food Bank Australia. So there are other items that we can sell. So we have our retail range. We have a bespoke Zambrero blondie and brownie for our dessert offering. So for every one of those served, we donate to Food Bank Australia, which is a local initiative within Australia, obviously. Rise Against Hunger is an incredible charity, and one that I was fortunate enough to actually go and spend some time in Johannesburg about 2 years ago now, and see where those meals are going. So Rise Against Hunger, it's international sort of distribution partner, and they distribute meal packs kind of consisting of rice, lentils, soy, and a sachet with 23 vitamins and minerals within there. And the meals are distributed through to a school feeding program, which encourages the parents to send their children to school. So rather than in a location, whether it be the Philippines, Johannesburg, Kenya, etc., where a lot of parents go, instead of sending you to school, I'm a fisherman, I'm going to teach you how to fish. You'll learn how to catch, we'll earn some money, and we'll kind of dine that way. This is kind of trying to break that cycle, provide the children with education, but by sending them to school, knowing that they're getting fed, they're getting fulfilled, so the parents don't have to have that worry and concern of feeding their family of however many children around the table in the evening, knowing that the children have eaten.
That's amazing. And actually, it's a double win. Like even here in Western countries, or now I'm living in New York, the city of New York provides meals at schools, partially for the same reason, and also partially to try and do healthy meals for kids, because previously kids were coming to school and just having either not eaten or eaten really, really poor quality food, and it affects their learning. So yeah, that's like a double win. Feeding them gets them to school, and then give them a good meal, they're going to learn much better.
Totally.
That's
And
amazing.
look, these meal packs with the rice and lentils, etc., the idea is that the regional kind of focus on ingredients, etc., we're not messing with that, right? So whether that
Yeah.
is using coconut milk or stock or throwing in local vegetables, and a lot of the schools we went to in Johannesburg were growing their own vegetables and hydroponic gardening, and working with kind of other businesses out there that would then provide the vegetable component. So it's not just the rice, the lentils, the vitamins, the minerals, but they're also getting the sustenance from kind of these leafy greens, etc., and educating them further on how to grow this and how to be sort of sustainable. Within Food Bank Australia, I talked about this is a food relief organisation, so they provide food to cover around 400 charities around the country, and that can be cereals for those children when we have the bushfires or the floods, etc. It's kind of providing food down there. And while we had one restaurant down in Victoria, so with Rise Against Hunger, annually we do a meal packing event, right? So certainly all of our head office staff, but this is invited out to our communities, our staff in restaurants, our franchise partners, our customers, and also just people that want to get involved. And we do these meal packing events dotted throughout the country across the different regions. And collectively, I think last year we packed 470,000 meals in that day to then get shipped off and go to East Timor or, say, Johannesburg. And then separate to that is the third charity, which is Love Mercy. So they're also our international partner, and Plate for Plate contributes to the Love Mercy Sense for Seeds, which is an agricultural sort of microloan project, and it's aiming to empower women in these remote communities of northern Uganda to provide for their families. So Sense for Seeds offers women the opportunity to thrive independently by earning an income, which then turns into food, education, and healthcare. So I give you a pack of seeds, you go, you plant these, you produce, and then you're able to kind of sell these on, and it's kind of a village to village kind of initiative.
And what set Sam Prince down this path originally? Like, what was he doing before Zambrero, and what drove him to have start such a mission driven business?
So his Sri Lankan heritage, right? His mother was born in Sri Lanka and got the opportunity to get a scholarship to go and study in Scotland. Sam was born in Scotland, and on his first birthday, rather than have a cake and presents, they instead sent back money to the village, and that was really kind of the enlightened moment to a point when he kind of heard that story that is you give back to people in need. And they moved from Scotland to Canberra, where he studied to be a doctor. And while studying to be a doctor, he also, realized he had kind of entrepreneurship flowing through his veins and blood. And whilst doing a number of other things, saw that there was an opportunity to fresh, healthy Mexican within the food space of Australia, and opened his first restaurant in Canberra. You speak to anyone in Canberra and ask them if they know Zambrero, and absolutely they do. We've got 14 or 15 restaurants kind of in ACT. But it was about restaurant 2 or 3 that somebody consumed that food and decided that they wanted a piece of it, and how can I offer this food to my community down in South Australia, where we had our first franchise partner. And now, say 300 plus restaurants, about 97% franchise run. And within that, I mean, Sam has fingers in many pie. There was One Disease, which was a charity working with Indigenous communities in Australia, focusing in on removing crusted scabies, which was rife, kind of, especially up in the Northern Territories and so on, with a goal to actually eradicate that as a disease within Australia, which they managed to do and actually ended up wrapping up that charity a couple of years ago. Next Practice, which is about changing the space in which, as I said, Sam was a doctor. So changing the way in which we think about the doctors. There's a number of Next Practice surgeries and IVF clinics throughout Australia, to a nootropic drink called Shine. The hospitality space, Mexico, Indu, Kyoto with Indu. We kind of worked with villages, charities within Sri Lanka, which similar to Love Mercy was kind of working with the women within the communities there to kind of do almost a village to village program. I'm sure there's some other businesses there that I've missed off.
that's a that's a lot. How does that go with focus doing so many things? And I mean, you've had it in your roles, like you were saying, you worked across early on Zambrero and the hospitality business.
I mean, look, focus for us is we do what we do. Certainly the reason I show up for work every day is because of what we do and the difference we make with regards to the Plate for Plate initiative. I'll leave Sam to have to think about how he runs all the other businesses. But be available every now and again when they want some assistance or some feedback. So we've actually just opened a new fried chicken shop in Miami called Tits Chicken, which, the guy that is running that, the CEO of the project, he used to work with me in Indu initially, and has just kind of evolved, an incredible human being with regards to delivering great hospitality and exceptional palate. And, Sam sees what he sees in people, and then those people kind of evolve and mature with him.
How have you seen the that sort of corporate social responsibility piece? Is obviously so core to Zambrero's and the St. Prince Hospitality Group. Have you seen others doing that well in the hospitality industry? And have you seen that evolve?
Yeah, look, I think it's come a long way from where it was certainly when I first started within the industry. And whether it's, if I rewind back to when we opened the gastropub and we were kind of growing our own vegetables, there was kind of the whole zero food miles was a big thing. And then that's evolved into kind of waste reduction, like zero waste kitchens, composting programs, and it's great to see some restaurants out there that are winning awards for being the best restaurant in the world or in their countries because of the things that they have put in place, whether that be Bray in Australia, whether that be Noma, whether that be 11 Madison Park, like people that are focusing in on plant-based initiatives. And, I'm sure people within the board are going, you crazy, like, we're in the city, we're serving steak and nice high-end bottles of red wine, but they've managed to kind of stay true to what they believe in and kind of that social responsibility kind of component. I think the eliminating, obviously, single-use plastics has obviously become mainstream, although, obviously with socials, I see that potentially plastic straws are coming back to the US. I don't know now what's a meme and what's actually genuine.
It's hard to follow over here.
But yeah, fair trade and ethical sort of supply chains, obviously being key. And I think this is absolutely and rightly a greater focus in ensuring kind of fair wages and ethical labor practices and, modern day slavery awards and so on, to then into that kind of animal welfare place kind of from the basic of cage free. And I think I listened to actually one of your other podcasts about the gentleman talking around McDonald's kind of moving to cage free, and just if they can kind of, allow that chicken to spread its wings without bumping into another, like what a difference that can make. And I think that has absolutely, and Chipotle in the US, with regards to their pork, kind of introducing a greater higher welfare of that, knowing that might increase the cost of the product to the customer. But actually what they saw was consumers wanted it and they were willing to kind of spend that money. I think employee well-being, in the mental health space in particular, I think there was a period, Are You Okay? Within Australia, especially, and working with the hospitality industry, there were many events. And I think some people kind of really acted on it. Some people used it just to kind of jump on the bandwagon. And I found that very difficult at the time, and saw it with my own eyes that was kind of, people were willing to talk about it over here, but they weren't necessarily doing what they should do kind of behind there. But then you have people, talking about their mental health. You have Heston Blumenthal, recently talking about being bipolar and kind of that vulnerability that comes out. And it's no longer this just, I'm a hard chef with tattoos and scars and I don't care. It's like, actually, I'm human. So I think there's a number of things there. To even the cultural kind of awareness and inclusivity, whether that be sort of different dietary or religious and kind of accessibility needs. So I see all of these things kind of within the hospitality space, and within other businesses, which is great to see. And then, more and more, especially in the QSR space, kind of doing some form of give back as well. So whether it's, to the extent of us and kind of Rise Against Hunger and those donations to other competitors, such as Grilled, that are doing things with local communities.
Yeah, how have you seen in your time? So yeah, 12, well, more than 12 years. 12 years at in Australia at the same Prince and Zambrero, but your time in the UK as well. How have you seen that kind of non-meat, plant-based meat alternative, that all those whatever name should be called at the moment? How have you seen that evolve over your time in the industry?
So actually, I remember a time at Mexico many years ago now where we were doing a new menu, we were doing the training. We had a vegetarian within our team, probably many, but there was one that kind of critiqued and criticized the dish that we put forward, which was effectively like portobello mushrooms that had been grilled with some epizate and a balsamic glaze, which, balsamic glaze in itself shouldn't be on any menu. Like, I just feel like someone is just trying to tart up a dish and make it look good when it shouldn't necessarily be on the menu. But it really stuck with me when she kind of said that we were using mushroom in that form of just kind of the portobello as, okay, well, this is just a simple, like, let's get this and offer that to our vegetarian customers. So it then got us thinking about, okay, well, how can we actually develop something that is as creative and innovative as we're doing with other dishes? And whether that would be, there was one dish where we had our watermelon salad, right? And it was, every customer ordered the watermelon salad and it was on our set menu and everyone loved it. But then there was a waste component, right? We were getting so much watermelon going. You had kind of this skin of this that we then started to kind of brine and pickle and have it almost like a candied watermelon bite that would kind of be a garnish within the taco. And as we thought about tacos or anything that we built, we would think about the layer, right? And it's going back to that cocktail world of the freshness, the balance, the presentation, and so on. It was that layering of a product. So you kind of had your base, you had your beans that was kind of like a butter on bread almost. You had your protein, your filling. You had that textural crunch through whatever the topping was. In this case, kind of that the watermelon rind that provided acidity that then cut through kind of the fats of the tortilla and the beans and the sour cream. So finding that balance and harmony within the products, and then working on other dishes outside of that watermelon piece that were just being a little bit more creative. So when something like Fable comes along, and you guys have done the work for us, right? Created this bind stem shiitake mushroom that really kind of does resemble meat, but it's not moving into that faux meat space where people are a little kind of confused, concerned, or conscious of the processing of that and additional preservatives and stuff. So being able to use something like this mushroom that can resemble a pulled meat product and then allow us to take that from you guys and then we grill it and then season that with achiote, with cumin, with some chipotle, with some fresh orange juice that kind of allows these citrusy, smoky, kind of sweet notes to come through. Using chili in a smart way, not using chili for heat, which historically we probably did, and then truly getting to understand the balance of these Mexican chilies and realizing that, even our sauce range, we're more than just mild and spicy. It's kind of using chilies because of the sweetness, that kind of raisiny, leathery tobacco's, prune kind of notes that you can get from there. It's flavor. It's not just heat. Over the period of time, I've seen it evolve, I guess, from that portobello mushroom under the salamander, out drizzle, to now something like the Fable product, or in Zambrero currently we have our cauliflower. So our cauliflower, we use a mix of florets and the stalk, so we're able to kind of create that kind of soft bite from the florets, but that crunchy bite from the stalk. So and that's mixed with cayenne, red jalapeno, paprika. Has this beautiful kind of orange red hue to it, but it's thinking more than just cauliflower, or as a guest that ordered the product and couldn't remember how to say cauliflower, called it ghost broccoli.
And how do you at Zambrero? How do you guys think about, like, obviously because the healthy angle is a core part of your value proposition? Yeah, how do you think about that as you're developing the menu?
Our kind of tagline, if you like, is feel good mix, right? Eat good, feel good. And the reason we have that is obviously it's twofold. Is one, we do believe that when you consume our burrito, compared to other competitor burritos, which are heavily laden with rice, beans, sour cream, cheese, and protein, our burritos, our bowls, kind of everything that we do, we think about how we add a layer of freshness to that. Right, our sauces are made in house, fresh every day. Our guacamoles, we have fresh cos lettuce kind of within that build. Our sauces can range from those kind of creamy egg base to more of a dressing style, like our Tresigo, which is a mix of coriander, garlic, fresh lime juice. Our red chili, which is not just a hot Serrano chili, we're kind of incorporating this with peach and ginger. Like there is just flavor bombs. So, and when you consume this, rather than kind of just feeling like this is weighting you down, I've just had a solid burrito. Instead, you go, I actually feel pretty good, right? I've just consumed this and I'm feeling it's hit the spot, but I don't feel sluggish. And then with that plate for plate initiative component, right, that you have just by consuming our food, you have now actually given somebody else some food. So you have that. So everything that we do, whenever we're developing anything, we'll always think, does it make you feel good? Right. And that's not to say that all of our food is healthy, right? I often say kind of healthy-ish, and a customer can make it as healthy as they like, or they can laden it up with everything that they wish to hit that kind of sweet spot of salt and fat and acid and so on. So yeah, we just kind of keep the feel good mix kind of always in our mind. Like, we've got it labeled above our desk in the product and innovation team. And when we're in our test kitchen, we have our menus kind of reflected. We have our plate for plate counter that is on show. We're seeing that number tick along. So we always kind of stay true to that.
And what's next for Zambrero? Yeah, you mentioned before the international stores that you've got in the UK, Ireland, New Zealand, now one in the United States. What's the next steps?
Yeah, well, next steps are so interestingly. We opened our first concept restaurant in the US, which was in Harvard Square in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I remember I'd gone over there to do some training with the team, and talking to a customer about our plate for plate initiative and our counter, which is on the wall in every one of our restaurants, ticking through, and it wasn't doing much. Right, we had one restaurant in the US, and Australia's asleep. And it was that moment I realized how important the international market is, right? It's not just about growing our restaurants for profit. It's about growing our restaurants because the more restaurants we have globally, the faster that counter is going to start ticking up. And the sooner we will reach our goal of 1 billion meals donated to people in need. So, as I mentioned, we're opening kind of one restaurant a week this financial year. I think we have around 24 restaurants left to do by July 1, and that's Australia alone. Ireland, I've just returned back from their conference and it was incredible. I was going over there. We have 29 restaurants, and I kind of assumed that maybe there would be a handful of franchise partners, a few suppliers. We had 120 people in the room that we're talking to, and you go through Dublin and turn a corner and you find a Zambrero, and a few kilometres down that way, another in London. One of our restaurants in Eastcheap, we've got another restaurant 200 metres along in Cannon Street. In the UK, you come out of a Pret and there's a Pret a manger across the road, and there's one just around the corner. But yeah, our restaurants are kind of growing. We've got a number of restaurants within our pipeline. We've got a number of franchise partners signed up, ready to go. Now it's about finding the right locations for them. Our sights are firmly on 500 restaurants in the next couple of years. So what is next is grow our pipeline, introduce more franchise partners to the network, which isn't just about finding anyone with a pulse. This is about finding someone that has, the same belief in us. This is someone that wants to give back. This is someone that wants to open a restaurant, serve delicious food, serve the best burrito in town, engage in hospitality with our guests. Like I truly believe in whether the heads of Zambrero would want to hear this, but when I first came on board with Zambrero, I was like, is this sexy enough? Right? I've worked in the food world where I get to play with menus and cocktails and serve thousands of guests and really try and kind of make a difference to their life while they're consuming their food. It's not just, was it great food? It was, here's great food, here's great hospitality. Even if the food is average, if the hospitality is fantastic, I want to go back. And with Zambrero, I believe that we're in a space to be able to offer both, right? We offer great food, but if you've been to a Zambrero, you know that when you go into the majority of our restaurants, you get greeted by your guest, and you work down the line to build your product. Now, that may only be a minute and a half's worth of time to build that. But if you have a team member or a franchise partner who is engaged, who is confident and knowledgeable about our menu, who can not necessarily upsell, but create the perfect build for that customer. Once they're fully trained and understand on everything we do, our mission is really to tell the team member, hey, you've got a minute and a half, not only to build their product, but to build a relationship and a rapport with this guest. This isn't just go to a counter, place your order, they go on their phone, look at emails, go on, social media, etc. This is an opportunity to create a moment with that customer. So that's absolutely kind of key in what we do, and finding the right people that can do that as well. So, finding franchise partners that want to open a restaurant, deliver that experience of hospitality, that care about plate for plate, that care about the quality of our food and giving back and reducing waste and being mindful of kind of, everything they do, forecasting, build to guides, etc. That's key.
That's great. Well, thank you very much, Richard. Yeah, love what you guys do. Love your food. Love the Plate for Plate initiative, and yeah, we're thrilled to be partnering with you, and yeah, excited to have the LTO launch. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing your journey with us. Really appreciate it, Richard.
Thank you. It's been great. And yeah, we'll have Fable later this year, and really excited to see how that goes and does as I expect it to do, which has become a permanent menu item.
Yeah, awesome. No, thanks. We're pumped. Cool.
All right. Thank you, man. Take care.
Thanks. You too.